The world's leading business strategist, Scott Steinberg, joins us this morning to share his expertise. Take a look.
Well, this morning on Hometown Living, we have one of the world's leading business strategists here this morning, Scott Steinberg, who's also the CEO of BizDev, the International Association for Business Development and Strategic Partnerships. Scott, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. Well, as you can see, even just the two of us, a lot more companies and corporations have had to pivot to work from home. How is that really working in the business sector, and how are businesses really adapting to these unusual as well as quick changes?
Well, the good news is they're pretty resilient, adapting quite well, and you got so many tools now that allow you to work from home. They're really finding new ways to connect with their workforce, manage teams, and get things done. And the nice part is you even have online marketplaces like Fiverr and Upwork where you can find freelance help or get logos done or find all sorts of solutions for getting online in minutes. So there really is a lot of opportunities out there. We were going digital before. It's just a trend that's accelerated during the pandemic.
Mhm. So what's really next in the world of business? I'm sure the COVID-19 pandemic might have switched things even when you were future casting what was looking forward to next. But what can business leaders do to future-proof themselves and really stay ahead of the curve? And now knowing the adaptations that they've had to make, what does it look like? What can we see in the future?
Well, I think it's important to be flexible, adaptable, and resilient, and that means having access to more online and on-demand solutions that you can activate at a moment's notice, as well as having a business plan that allows for a little bit of evolution, knowing that you may reopen only to close and have to reopen again. And by the way, finding ways to team up with other business owners and collaborate with folks in your community, that's a great way to find ways to stay top of mind and come up with new solutions if you find you have to pivot suddenly.
hmm Well, let's talk on the employee side of things. We've talked about corporations. So, what new career skills must really modern professionals cultivate if they want to stay relevant, if they want to be successful, if they want to make themselves marketable? What do they need to be looking at in the future as well?
Sure. Going forward, it's going to be more about communications, creativity, and problem solving. So you really got to think about creative ways that you can come up with solutions to novel problems because we're all facing them with greater frequency going forward. And you really have to be adaptable, resourceful, and resilient. And again, the beauty of this is that you can find tools and options for getting anything done in a minimum of time at a minimum of cost. And it really is about how you mix and match and put them together. And by the way, the more that you can build a network of other folks around you, you don't necessarily have to be super smart or have more resources. You just become a little bit more resourceful as a result. And you don't have to be ingenious to get ahead in business anymore. When you have all those folks helping you, it's really just about being a little bit more clever and ingenious instead.
hmm So, how can businesses and brands, connect, engage now with the modern customer? So, I think customer trends are changing even now. We're seeing problems and companies figuring out ways to solve them. So, how can they even just protect their reputation in times of crisis that they've faced recently?
Sure. Well, the point is to be active, to be open, to communicate, to stay in touch, to really stay attuned to what it is customers want and realize that their needs are going to change fast. And we're seeing all sorts of things come out of left field lately. So you really got to be nimble and fast on your feet and responsive when it comes to addressing them. But on top of that, also keep in mind there's all sorts of tools out there that you can access online in terms of artificial intelligence or analytics that can actually help you see what's happening in real time and even predict what people want before they know they want it.
Mhm. We've talked a lot about just the virtual experience. So, how can the future of meetings, events, what does that look like? I mean, I talked about this before we started recording that we'll finally find out what meeting could have been an email. So, what does that look like going forward from different meeting in large conference rooms or even just events that businesses might be having for employees or customers? How can you change that and still be effective?
So the good news is we did some research and it's looking quite positive. So meeting planners think that September might be about the soonest when live events return, but going forward, you're going to see more digital and hybrid events. So the nice part is digital is not going to fully replace in person. It's going to live alongside it. And you're going to see more meetings and conferences that have virtual and live components. And on top of it, the gatherings aren't going to be as big. You're going to see less of the 5,000 person plus mega events and more of the 50-person events going forward because people still need a sense of human connection.
hmm I want to go back to what you were talking about, making yourself marketable as an employee, because a lot of people are out of work during this time and might be finding themselves looking at new careers. And quite frankly, how are you going to get hired? A lot of companies might be on hiring freezes. How can you take that next step and land a next job? Might not be a career move, but might be just that next job.
So there's a few pieces to it. The thing to keep in mind is right now you got all the time in the world, especially if you've been laid off, unfortunately. So you should use it to invest in yourself and make yourself more marketable by picking up new skills, new education, new contacts. If you need an excuse to be in people's inbox, you can always volunteer, you can pay it forward, get to know more people in your community. But really what you're trying to do is stand out at a glance. And the way you can do that is by starting something, by creating new projects. But again, with all sorts of off-the-shelf tools and templates, you can build and mix and match just about anything in a matter of minutes for less than $100. So now has never been a better time than ever to really start something and make things happen.
Fantastic, Scott. Well, share your website for our viewers to get more information on the topics we talked about this morning.
Sure, you can hit bizdevassociation.com if you want to find out more. And by the way, membership right now, it is free, so please come join us.
Fantastic. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us here on Hometown Living and really sharing your expertise.
My pleasure, Jackie. Thanks again.